Okay, I believe we're live. Night night, baby. Uh, okay, y'all. We're going to start this evening's discussion talking about the book Boundaries. Here's our book. Here's our book, lovely ladies, lovely ladies. So thank you for joining tonight. It is going to be, this month is going to be, I'm just going to speak. It is definitely going to be a challenging process. If you really get into this study with me and we go deep. So I just want you all to know what my process is, okay? It's my goal to steward the ladies who are in this group. And it is my desire not just for you to have a community of other women to kind of chit chat about your day-to-day stuff with, but it is my goal that I help grow you. So some of the materials that I'm going to use in these trainings is going to be original. I've created it, but some things are already in place, and I think the resources are already well put together, and those resources we're just going to borrow, should I say, we're just going to borrow those resources. So this month, Boundaries is where we're starting. I think it's an excellent place to start because if we are able to be good stewards of our resources in terms of saying no when we need to say no and saying yes when we need to say yes, it will shape our whole year for success. I do believe that it will shape our whole year. And so this is a lesson that I know I can personally grow from. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know too many people. I know a few, but I don't know very many who I think could say, I don't need to grow in this area at all in my life of boundaries. I think we can all serve to gain something. So, as you know, I try to keep it to 30 minutes, and that's what I'm going to do tonight. It's going to be okay with me if it ends up, being a longer study in terms of weeks. It will definitely be worth it if you apply yourself. So, you're going to ask me, where's my cheat sheet? So I have your cheat sheet for tonight, but I wasn't able to get it to you tonight. So charge it against my head and not my heart. I'm not even bringing my drama into this tonight. This is not about my drama. This is about us getting what we need to get. So I am just going to have to talk you through it. Feel free to take your own notes. And when I'm able to get it uploaded, you will have full access to this week's notes and then, the following week's notes as well. So another note, we are not going to go through every aspect of the book. I'm going to pull out the parts that I think will be most relevant to the lives and schedules and challenges of the people in this group, as far as I understand it and see it. You're always welcome to ask questions. Please do drop your questions in the chat, or you can drop them in the group tomorrow if there's something that comes up, and I'll see it and we'll talk about it. All right, a boundary. What is a boundary? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What is a boundary? I mean, how would you describe what a boundary truly is? So you can put it in a comment. You can just think about it from where you're at. What is a boundary? How do you define it in words? Like, how can you put it into words? Okay. All right. So we might have a little power issue here, but y'all just bear with me. Okay, just bear with me. I might have to borrow power here from one device for the next. Oh. I need another outlet. Hey, welcome. Okay, so I'm asking you, what is a boundary? What does it look like? So a boundary shows where you end and someone else begins. Okay, that's one definition for a boundary. Where you end and someone else begins. And sometimes that's hard to figure that out, especially as caregivers, right? We have children. It can even be confusing for some of us with spouses or significant others, right? Where do I end and they begin? What's mine and what's theirs? Okay. But it's important to define where we end and someone else begins. Okay. It's important to define those things. So what is me and what is not me is a definition that we're going with for boundaries, okay? The next point that's important to make when we're talking about boundaries is that we have a responsibility. This is a God-given responsibility to others and for ourselves. To others and for ourselves. So we're just laying the groundwork for boundaries, okay? Now, I'm gonna break this one down because it's gonna be a little bit confusing. We're responsible to others and for ourselves. So that's where we have a burden versus a load, okay? A burden versus a load. So a load, right, is the burden of daily toil, right? It's just part of living, right? It's our daily burden, right? So for example, my daily burden as a, can I say working stay-at-home mom? But I feel mostly like a stay-at-home mom, y'all, okay? My daily load, I get up with the kids, I get everybody fed, dressed, ready for school, out the door, right? I take care of my 2-year-old all day. I then get my 4-year-old from school, right? I'm there when my 8 and 10-year-old get off the bus. I do homework and snacks, make sure everybody's fed, get dinner going, right? Make sure chores get done. So I'm supervisor, I'm mommy, I can't really say babysitter because it's my baby, but I'm cook, I'm housekeeper, I'm, bill payer, I'm budget creator, I'm, whatever, however you want to term it, that would be considered my daily load. And every day, those are my usual responsibilities to make sure my children, get out to school, they learn, they come home, they complete their responsibilities. I'm raising them to be, responsible young people. And I can say for my husband, right? I see him out when he comes home, make sure he's fed, make sure his mind is right? When he comes back in from work, I'm like, oh, your mind right? Oh, we need a few minutes, okay? Then we go into our evening routine together, right? So that would be considered a load. The burden of what you do every day is your load. A burden, we're considering excess, okay? Excess. So excess might be a child that, if one of my children perhaps becomes chronically ill, it is more than the normal daily toil, right? If I'm having to take one of my children to the ER on a regular basis and maybe having to buy these really expensive prescriptions that far exceed our normal budget. They were unexpected. We just, got over COVID, right? Well, you have a household of sick people. These are things that would be more than your daily toil, okay? So I just want to make that clear. Your load, that's your normal responsibilities from day to day. Yes, things kind of come up, but that's part of it. Your burden is something above and beyond the norm, something that is probably too heavy for you to sustain over a long period of time. You could do it a little while, but it would be too much if you had to do it for the long shot. Now, when we talk about being responsible to others and for ourselves, okay, our responsibility to others as a Christian man, a Christian woman, our responsibility to others is to help them with that burden. The burden is if they are carrying more weight than is normal for a person to carry, we would be responsible to them to help carry that. But we are responsible for handling our own daily loads, okay? So picture that for us, and that's the same for them, okay? They should be helping us if something's really heavy, but on day to day, they got to take care of their stuff, and I got to take care of my stuff. Day to day, you have to take care of your daily stuff, and they got to take care of their daily stuff. All right, so I hope I've made that clear. A load, your daily stuff, a burden is something excessive, and it is reasonable to ask for help for that, okay? All right, so what is the purpose of boundaries? Boundaries keep the good in and the bad out. The good in and the bad out. And I feel like the analogy of the fence is easiest. I mean, I live in the suburbs, okay? But I've lived in inner city too. And, you know, when somebody has a fence up, that pretty much means don't you go in that fence unless you know it's okay, right? You don't go in that fence unless you know it's okay. So it's important to understand that we set up boundaries for a reason, right? To keep what was ours, and what's not ours stays out there, right? That's what the fence is for. We put the fence up so we can keep our swing set and our playground set and our bikes or whatever else we want in our backyard to stay ours. We don't want anybody snooping around. We don't want anybody messing with it because that's our stuff. And that's one way that we let everybody know it's our stuff. By putting up a fence, right? By putting up a boundary. We have to make it clear. Okay? But there are doors to every fence. And that's because we do need to allow things to come in and go out. There are going to be times where the bad is locked inside and we got to let that junk out. And there's going to be times where the good is locked on the outside and we got to open up so we can let that good in. Okay, so there has to be opportunity for exchange. Okay, exchange in the boundary process. Because it's not a wall. A fence is not a wall. Things have to be able to come in and go out. Come in and go out. Okay. There's also slits in every fence, right? I know, okay, the vinyl fences, you really can't see through those too much, but most chain link fences, most wooden fences, if you think about it, there's little slits in there so that you can see inside, right? Going to the concept of the fence, there has to be space to allow at least a little something to pass through there, right? A little something, right? Even with the vinyl fences, they're locked up. But if you walk the edge of the fence, you're going to find a little slit somewhere underneath there. A little something can get under there. A little rat, a little kitty cat. It can get up in there, and that's how it should be, all right? Fences are not walls. Boundaries are not meant to be walls. All right. God wants you to be clear about your no and your yes, all right? He wants you to be clear about your no and your yes. No's and yeses help to make it clear where I end and where someone else begins, right? So if I say yes to something, right, I am taking ownership, I'm taking responsibility for it, I'm making it my own. If I say no to something, I'm refusing it, I am not accepting it as my own. So, what are some of the things that we have to take responsibility for? Like, what is considered our responsibility? So our words, right? Our words are something that will fall within our realm of responsibility. They would be ours, right? That would be mine. Truth, right? Truth. What is truth? So as a Christian, as a believer, right, the truth of the word would count as that truth. I will hold to that. I would take ownership of it. Time, ladies. I need y'all to listen to this. Time, right? So these are things that are inside our fences. This is what I'm talking about. What is inside your fence right now? According to God's word, he's saying these things belong in your fence, right? Your words, they're in your fence. You own your words. Your truth, that's in your fence. You own that. Your time is in your fence, right? Now, granted, we give our time away, right? We have trouble saying no, but ultimately, our time is our responsibility. How we spend our time is our responsibility. Our feelings are in our yard. They are our own. We have to own them. It's not okay to push them off. It's not okay to blame others for them. Our feelings are our own. Attitudes and beliefs are our own, right? What we think about something, what we believe about something, that's up to us. Those are ours. So if they're ours, that means we can change them, right? I'm just asking. If it belongs to me, I have the power to change it, right? Yes. Yes, I do. Okay. Behaviors. That's in my corner. My behavior is in my corner. I have responsibility over that. I have ownership. My choices. My values. Right? And we see a lot of this we get from our family. We grow up in families and we kind of take on whatever values are of our family. But as we become adults, we are of sound mind enough to then take ownership of what values we want to continue to hold on to and keep in our yard and which ones need to get booted. Our talents, our thoughts, our resources and gifts are ours, right? Our desires are ours. Our desires are ours. So I'm bringing up all these things because sometimes we don't really think of them as being our own, right? Sometimes we think of them being almost controlled by other people. Our circumstances control how we feel. Our circumstances control our choices, right? And there are some people who may be listening that you really don't believe that you have full control over these things, but guess what? These things are in your yard. They are in your yard and you do have control. And because you have control over them, because you have responsibility of them, that means that you get to decide the outcome of some of these things. They're in your court, they're in your yard. All right. So, since these things are within our fence, right? How do we make these boundaries clear? Because it's easy to have a physical boundary. You can see it. But a lot of these concepts that I've just thrown out, right, they're conceptual. You can't see them. You know they're there. You understand them. But how do you clearly defend them? Right? Because some are spiritual, some are conceptual. How do we defend the boundaries that cannot be seen? That is going to be answered as we get further into the book. How can we defend these boundaries that can't be seen? Right? Well, 3 ways that he starts out with at the very beginning explaining are: we can make clear a boundary by distance, right? Geographical distance is one way of clearly establishing a boundary. Emotional distance. Y'all probably know about both of these, right? Look, you're not good for me. Don't come near me. Stay away. I'm not visiting you, and you're not visiting me. That's pretty straightforward. This is a boundary. We're not crossing it. The boundary is distance. I can say, I mean, there have been times where I have actually run, hundreds of miles from people because I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore. I need that physical distance. Okay, emotional distance. You all know how this goes, right? I can't answer this person's text. I can't take this person's calls because I get emotionally hijacked when I deal with this person. I have to just emotionally distance myself from. I have to block them. I mean, maybe not permanently, but I have to block them on my phone because they cannot have access to my emotions. I can't have them in here. I can't have them in my ear. It's trouble. Okay. Other people can serve as a way of setting a boundary. How do you say, right? I know this might be extreme, but I have a friend who told me about, I want to say like they had shared with me while they were in high school, they somehow got involved in a cult and they were in deep. Okay, they were young, they were naive, and they got in deep. Their parents had to rescue them from this cult. So if it wasn't for their parents creating that boundary, right, stepping in and like, nope, she's ours. We're taking her back. We're taking her out of this thing, right? And that I feel like other people have to serve a boundary in certain, maybe more extreme situations, but they do serve to help create a boundary, okay? And I believe time also serves as a method of boundary setting, right? Time. All right, but the book is going to go deeper into that. I'm kind of just taking you through some of the main points of chapter 2. So it's not even the first chapter. The first chapter was a lot of stories just to kind of give you some examples of what a person without solid boundaries looks like. And I wouldn't do that any justice. So we're starting with the second one, which actually just kind of explains the principles of what a boundary is, what it is not. Okay, how is a boundary set? What's mine and what's not mine? And I'm looking at the time now. Forgive me, I did start a little bit late today, so I'm going to try to give it maybe 5 more minutes. So we'll be on for about 5 more minutes, still within that 30-minute window. But I wanted to give you some questions to think about on this topic because you really need to have a solid understanding of what is yours and what's not yours, right? Where does your responsibility as a woman end, right? And someone else's responsibilities begin? Where do your responsibilities as a mom end and your child's responsibilities begin? Where do your responsibilities as a wife or significant other end and someone else's begins? Okay, because the danger comes when the boundaries are not clearly defined. Things don't happen, right? There's blurry lines. People get hurt. There's confusion. And you don't want to get caught up in unnecessary confusion. You want there to be clarity. See, so when you know what belongs to you, right? hopefully you take better care of it, right? This is clearly the example. Battery owner versus renter, right? If I rent something, it's not mine, right? And sometimes I don't know, should I be fixing this? Should I be patching that? Should I call the landlord about this? I don't know. Sometimes the lines are blurry, and guess what? That usually means it's not being taken care of as well. But when you own something, when you know that you know it's yours, oh yes, you better recognize this is mine. I'll put my name on it. That means I can decorate it the way I want to decorate it, right? And typically that means that I'm going to take better care of it because I know it's mine. There's no confusion about it. Okay, so it is very important to understand where you end and the next person begins in terms of relationships. I mean, again, it is easier when it's something physical, right? Like a house versus an apartment. But we have to really think about it. Where do you end? Where do your responsibilities end as a woman, as a mom, as a employee, or as a boss, as a sister, as an auntie, as a godmom, as a grandmom? I mean, all these roles do require I need you to think about what that means. Where do you end and they begin? What is your load, right? Think about what is your load. What should be your daily responsibilities in those relationships or with those things, right? We talk about the physical property, talk about the spiritual property, right? My thoughts, my feelings, my beliefs, my words, my truth. Where does that end? And someone else's thoughts, feelings, problems begin. So it would be helpful if you could, on a piece of paper, write out the different roles you have, right? And maybe just make a few notes. I mean, I just want you to take a few minutes to think it through. What does that really mean to separate between what's, a reasonable load versus a burden, okay? And then here are a few things that I need to throw in there as well. There should be consequences when someone crosses a boundary. Yes, there should be consequences. And we should avoid manipulating or falling prey to manipulation. Right? So we should not be manipulated into changing our boundaries. And we should not manipulate others into changing their boundaries. We should not be manipulated into changing our no to a yes or a yes to a no. And we should avoid doing the same thing to others. Okay, so I feel like it is a lot of information that I put out. And so on our next session, I'll pick up a little bit with this. But please be prayerful about this topic. Okay, be prayerful about it. Be thinking about it in your daily load, like as you go along your daily load, as you handle your daily responsibilities. I might be jumping ahead of myself, but since your emotions are your own, right? Your emotions usually will give you some warning signals if, one, your boundaries are being violated. And some of us get warning signals when we're violating someone else's boundaries. All right, so from now until next Tuesday, I want you to try to be mindful. What areas do I need stronger boundaries? Am I a respecter of other people's boundaries? That might be a hard one for some of us. We want our boundaries to be respected, but we really don't respect other people's no's. We're set on getting our way, right? And that's not God's way. All right. So thank you for joining me, and I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to cover you all in prayer, and I hope you have a wonderful week. I will see you next Tuesday. All right. Good night.